Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video for people who haven't done their homework. You now need to catch up and have a good think about some of the consequences of Lanfranc's appointment of the position of Archbishop of Canterbury, the most powerful position in the church during the reign of William I. There's three possible consequences that we're going to have a look at as part of this, and this is what people will have done in their essays. Number one, increased control of the church itself. I'm going to kill that in there. Because Lanfranc was appointed Archbishop of Canterbury, the church, it gave William greater control over the church. The church was hugely important in the 11th century. Literally everybody was religious. There was no exceptions in that. And by putting a Norman ally in charge of the church, William gained control of the church. This is proven by many facts. There's the fact that church service became Normanised, so they were done in a Norman style, that's what it means. Cathedrals were built in a Norman style. Churches were built in a Norman style. New bishops that were appointed were Norman, or at least from some other part of France and an ally of William. In fact, by the time William died, there was only one Anglo-Saxon bishop left in England. So, one definite consequence is that William increased his control of the church by appointing Lanfranc. That could be the biggest consequence, in your opinion. You have to have a think. Number two, we've got the increased Norman control of England due to his control of the church. Again, going back to the fact that everybody was religious, and they thought that if they did not do what the people in the church said, they would go to hell for all eternity. It gave William a greater degree of control over England, a greater Norman control over England, because if he's got an ally speaking every Sunday, at least, or all the time, to the people of the land, and reinforcing the Norman message of what William wanted them to do, and they believe in whatever the priests tell them to do, that's going to help William to have greater control of the country, to put Normans in those key positions where the population has been told, you must listen to priests or you're going to hell forever. That's going to help William to gain control of the nation. There's not really any evidence that goes with this, other than things that I've already said. There was one bishop that was Anglo-Saxon left by the time William died, which says he's put key allies in every key church position except for one, and so that shows that William will have a greater control of the country. However, you might think, well, that's not as big a William used other things to help him control the country more, like castle building, like dealing with the rebellions decisively. You might think that the strategy of taking control of the church was not to control England, but to control the church itself. You'll have to have a little think. Point number three. We've got the church became less corrupt. Corrupt is like taking backhanders, doing things which you shouldn't do, things that aren't fair. And in the 11th century, before William took over, the church was accused by William and the Pope of being corrupt. There was nepotism. So giving the job to the son of the old priest or the old bishop, which could happen because priests were allowed to get married and have children until William came along. He banned marriage of priests, or Lanfranc, should I say, banned marriage of priests, so you couldn't have nepotism, really, not as easily of running in the family. I guess you could give it to a brother or so, but it was outlawed. You're not allowed to give positions to people in the family. Another way for church positions, which of course were very well paid and very powerful, was through payment, which is known as simony. You pay or you give some land or something and you get a church position. Lanfranc outlawed that and said, that the implication there is you should get this job on merit, not because you're related to the last person who did it or because you can pay the most. Those things are fairer and less corrupt than what the church was like before. And there was also pluralism, which the last Archbishop of Canterbury was guilty of. Stigand, he'd been Bishop of Winchester and Archbishop of Canterbury. He held two church positions. And Lanfranc outlawed that straight away. He says, no. You have one church position, not two. There's no one person going to gain that much power in the church. But not only that, he didn't outlaw things. He made sure there was more regular council meetings of key bishops and the archbishops in the church. So he had a greater control generally of the church than had been the case previously. You've got three options. Was the biggest consequence of the appointment of Lanfranc the increased Norman control over the church? Was the main consequence of the appointment of Lanfranc the increased Norman control over England because of the increased control of the church? Or was it the fact that when Lanfranc was appointed, the church, this important institution, became less corrupt? You decide quickly, because we're going to have a debate soon.